Good afternoon and welcome to the Caregiver Teleconnection. My name is Glenda Rogers and I'm going to facilitate the session today with Dr. Tam Cummings. We're so glad she's with us today. Before I introduce her, I want to introduce Candace Ramos. She's with Vitas Healthcare and they are sponsoring our session today with Tam. So Candace, tell us a little bit about Vitas.
Hello, Glenda. It's always great to be here and to support Tam being on these talks every quarter. So thank you for joining. Today, I'm going to share the Vitas Healthcare Hospice Fast Facts. 10 fast facts about hospice. Number 1, hospice is for people with advanced illness. Number 2, hospice can happen anywhere. Number 3, hospice is a choice. Number 4, patients can keep taking some medications while on hospice. Number 5, hospice gives medicines as needed to help with symptoms. Number 6, family or friends provide care with support from the hospice team. Number 7, there is no limit to the time a patient can be on hospice. Number 8, hospice provides home medical equipment and supplies related to the cause of the illness. Number 9, hospice supports the family. And number 10, most hospice patients do not have any out-of-pocket expenses for the hospice benefit. If you still have questions, please download a discussion guide at hospicecanhelp.com. Visit our website at vitas.com, VITAS, or give us a call at 1-800-93-VITAS. Thank you guys for having me today and hope you enjoy your time with Tam.
Thank you, Candace, and be safe on the road out there.
Because she was on the road.
She
could
was
see
on the road. I think she pulled
You know,
over, but anyway.
one of the biggest things I've taken from Candace, and I've used it for the last 3 months, Candace, or 2 months since we've seen each other last, is to really press home to families that in the US, the average American family uses hospice less than 5 days. That's not what its intent was. Y'all can't even get the equipment out there in time. Hospice is meant to be used during the time of actively dying, which is at least 9 months. Hospice doesn't mean your person's leaving us today. It just means an extra layer of professional care. So please reach out and ask your doctor, is it time for a hospice order? The other thing is, Candace talked, I think 2 months ago when you spoke, and with a lightning bolt, I realized that 3 of the elderly people in my family meet the criteria for hospice. So it's there to help you. It's a layer of professional care. They do everything that should have been done for dementia families in the beginning. They're there to help you through the end. You just can't say enough good things about our hospice folks. So bless you, Candace. Thank you for all the stuff that y'all do. Really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. One of my good friends is on hospice right now, and she's being well cared for. So thank you, hospice, and thank you, Candace. Well, okay, let's get started with introducing Tam. If you haven't been with us before, I want to tell you just a little bit about her. Dr. Tam Cummings founded her company in 2009 with a mission to inspire, educate, and empower dementia caregivers. Now her professional gerontological practice in the Texas Hill Country, and it's hot here today, is recognized as one of the leading educators of dementia caregivers and program design for dementia care nationally. Tam, thank you for being with us today, and please get started.
Thank you. And anybody who doesn't know Glenda was head of the Area Agency on Aging for the capital of Texas for years and years and years, and knows everything about the government stuff that is not part of my training. It probably was at some point, but I didn't care, so I didn't pay that much attention because I knew I had Glenda. So Glenda can answer those questions about what the Area Agency on Aging has available for you in your region. They are the national government. They're part of the Older Americans Act of 1964. They are the best kept secret of the government, but they're there to help you, and they have all sorts of tools and monies available to help you. So when Glenda and I were talking this week, and we try to touch base before we do these as to what are we seeing, what are we hearing from families that they need. And I don't know whether you know it, but on our website, which is tamcummings.com, we have a place for families to send us their story about their journey. And one of the things that I have been seeing frequently, just recently, is that family members are overwhelmed with guilt. They're overwhelmed with feeling that they haven't done enough. And at the same point, they're putting their own health at risk by trying to do the care that takes 12 of us as professionals to do every 8 hours. By stage 6, 16 of us. By stage 7, the bedbound stage, 18 of us. And if your loved one is over the age of 95, there's an extra 22 hours of care that in a community we build into the care plan, because we know an older person is going to require that much more assistance. It takes about an hour to feed a person who has dementia. It can easily take an hour to try to bathe a person with dementia. When people ask me what time do I want the conference to start, I always tell them not before 9:30 or 10, because our family caregivers need that much time to leave their person for the weekend or for the day of the conference. So I told Glenda what I was going to do this week is test you. And so I hope everybody has a pen and a paper, and we're going to start with the Hamilton Anxiety Scale. And all I want you to do is to be honest. All of the tests that are done in dementia, not only for your loved one, but also for you, because you have to ask yourself a very honest question of, if something happens to me, who in my family steps forward? And for some of you, that causes an actual chill to go down your spine. For a few of you, you go, okay, well, I know this kid will do the right thing. But it's a very, very scary thing. And our ultimate goal is to try to keep you, the family caregiver, alive. And as I say that, Glenda and I are both aware that not everybody can afford $10,000 a month in care or $6,000 a month in care. Some of you do, based on financial need or your location of where you live. You're going to be doing care to the end of life. And so we want to be able to help you do that. And one of the ways to do that is to make your physician aware of the true stress that you're under. So I'm in the new cover version. Okay, Glenda has a copy. She'll show you the old cover version. There's the old one. I told my marketing person, I said, that cover looks like it's black and we're pulling the guts out of a computer. And she said, no, it's a puzzle piece. And I said, I want a pretty one. So she gave me this one. So this is the new cover. All the information, it is the same. So what I want to do first is I want to ask you some questions. And these questions are the Hamilton Anxiety Rating Scale. They are not something that's telling you you're a bad person, that you're not a good caregiver. These are all tests to determine what your stress level is, because if we don't take care of you, the caregiver, who steps forward when you're no longer with us? So this is the Hamilton Anxiety Rating Scale. This is on page 125. And the way you're going to grade yourself is you either don't have this symptom at all, you have it a couple of times a month, you've felt it. Moderate means you've had it a couple of times a week. Severe means you're thinking about it daily. And very severe means this is really starting to be part of your daily thing. And anxiety, Glenda, is usually what if questions, whereas depression is coulda, woulda, shoulda. So what if is living in the future, coulda, woulda, shoulda is living in the past, and that's depression. So how many of you have worries, and it can be any kind of worry, anticipation of the worst, fearful anticipation, or irritability? And it's okay to say you're irritable. One of the main features of both depression and anxiety, as well as untreated pain, is irritability. So if the irritability, if the fearful anticipation, if anticipation of the worst, if worries are a daily constant thing for you, then that's a check for very severe. And these are things your doctor needs to know. So If you don't have the itty bitty dementia book, you can go to tamcummings.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says tools, and the tools are right there for you. And the doctor will recognize these tools. These are medical tools that the physician will be familiar with. On tension. And Glenda, this is a big one because tension seems to attack us both physically and mentally. Do you have feelings of tension? Are you easily fatigued? Do you have a startle response that wasn't there before? Do you move to tears easily? Do you have actual moments of trembling where you can't pick up a drink because you realize right now your hand is trembling? Do you have feelings of restlessness? And do you find that you can no longer relax? You can't sit down and even watch your favorite show because it's always in the background of what if, what if, what if. If that is occasional, that's mild. If it's weekly, it's moderate. If it's daily, it's severe. But if it's constant throughout the day, that's very severe. And your doctor needs to know this because these are things we actually can treat you for. Do you have fears? Fears of the dark, fears of strangers, fears of being left alone, fears of animals, fears of traffic, or fears of crowds. Now, Glenda, as a general rule of thumb, I don't like being in crowds. I don't like to go to games. I don't like to go to concerts. I don't want to do that. That's not the same as when I'm speaking. I'm not bothered by that at all. But otherwise, if you said, hey, I've got tickets to the football game, do you want to go? I'd be like, no. Number one, I know my bathroom's right there. That's a big number one. But number two is I don't want to be around crowds of people. I'm hyper vigilant because of an alcoholic father. So I have to be aware to take care of myself because this is one area where anxiety impacts me. But for you, that could be caused just by the condition that's occurring in your loved one. Insomnia. And Glenda, we are now the generation of people that sleep worse than any generation ever recorded in time. So if you're having difficulty falling asleep, you can't turn it off. Everything keeps churning. In my case, Glenda, it's what every awful song I listened to last continues to play in my brain all night long unless I do a series of steps to calm myself down. Do you have broken sleep? And so, Glenda, one of the questions I ask a family member and their loved one is, do you get up and go to the bathroom in the night, but then do you come back and immediately fall asleep? Or did going to the bathroom just wake all that back up for you and now you're twisting and turning and flipping and flopping in the bed again? Do you have unsatisfying sleep and fatigue on waking? And fatigue on waking with unsatisfying sleep means you never reached stage 4 or REM sleep. You didn't reach the sleep that actually gives us deep sleep, that actually regenerates our body. And fatigue on waking could mean a couple of things. So you want to be assured that you're not experiencing sleep apnea. Now, Glenda, snoring is my mouth is open and I'm pulling air in through my mouth instead of my nose. And so my soft palate is rattling, and that's what makes snoring. Sleep apnea is the mouth is shut and the person's breathing sounds because their brain has actually turned off. Their heart is beginning to move to cardiac arrest and their body is trying to wake them back up. So if I'm snoring with my mouth open, I'm snoring, just push me. If I'm snoring with my mouth shut, I need a sleep apnea test. Now, Glenda, is a person with dementia going to wear a snorkel? No, because we didn't grow up wearing snorkels. And one of the oddest things about sleep apnea treatment is who do you think's less likely to wear their snorkel mask, male or female?
I'm thinking female, but I don't know.
It's males. And their number one response is, I don't look sexy. Now, ladies who are married Could you look at your husband right now and go, you weren't sexy to begin with while you're you're not any sexier with the mask on. But they're not going to keep the mask on, but that sleep apnea is a clue to vascular dementia. And it also means that my spouse had 96 interrupted episodes of sleep. That means 96 times the brain stopped working and the heart began to go into cardiac arrest. And so the cumulative effect over time of sleep apnea is a vascular dementia. Are you having dreams? One of the questions I ask people is, are you dreaming? And are you having dreams, or are you having nightmares or actual night terrors? Now we're talking about you right now. Are you having those things? Now, if your spouse is having night terrors and they're kicking and punching in the sleep, that's not a night terror. That's REM sleep behavior disorder associated with Lewy body's dementia. But for you yourself, are you seeing night terrors? Are you having the same terrible, awful dream night after night after night, which is actually stopping you from getting deep sleep? And your doctor needs to know that, not so that they can give you a sleeping pill, but so they can give you something to treat anxiety. And Glenda, there are a lot of anxiety medicines now that are taken at night that have a sleep component, especially if the doctor understands, I'm not sleeping right, I'm having night terrors, I'm having nightmares. Intellectually. Now, Glenda, this can really throw people, because one of the things about anxiety is you can begin to have difficulty concentrating, and you begin to have difficulty with memory. And if you have difficulty concentrating, you have difficulty with memory, your first thought is not, I need to see my doctor for anxiety. Your first thought is, oh crap, I have it too. And you begin to think you have a dementia rather than something that's treatable. Oh, she went and got a little baby to rock for us. Hi, little baby. Little sweet baby. Can y'all see the baby?
Yep, Peggy.
Doesn't that just make you feel better seeing a new little person in the world? Just perfect people. Okay, so talk to your doctor if you think you're having trouble with concentrating or you're having trouble with memory issues, because the two most common things that cause those are untreated depression and untreated anxiety. And we're going to go to depression after this. So if that's happening and you notice it, or your children notice it, or your neighbor notices it, or someone you love notices it, the instinctual reaction to, Glenda, something's wrong with your brain, is for you to become fighting mad. Try to put the fighting mad aside and think, of course I have anxiety. How could I not have anxiety? I mean, Glenda and I will both tell you, if you don't have anxiety and depression, you're different, because anybody caring for someone they love and watching them die from this disease is naturally going to develop anxiety and depression. So let's get that treated for you. Do you have a depressed mood? And a depressed mood is a loss of interest, a lack of pleasure in your hobbies. You've stopped doing hobbies. You stopped leaving the house. You stopped going out. You stopped doing family things. You actually have depression. You're waking too early in the morning, or you're having swings throughout the day that are related to your inability to sleep right. Now, as I say that, I understand that my marketing person gets up at 5 a.m. for reasons that do not make sense to me and begins to text me right then with work. That's not normal. But when you wake up, if you notice that you are exhausted and that you don't sleep the way you used to sleep, the only person that can tell the doctor this is you. The doctor doesn't know what your normal sleep pattern was. So you've got to lead the doctor down the trail. And that's why these scales were made, so that families could test themselves and take it to the doctor. Do you have muscle aches and pains, but the doctor can't find a causation for it? A lot of people don't realize that people who are in depression and people who have anxiety have muscle aches and pains for which there is no causation, because the doctor's not looking at anxiety or depression. But anxiety and depression both cause muscle aches and pains that we don't understand. Maybe it's that I'm not moving enough, Glenda. Maybe it's that I'm not sleeping enough. Maybe it's that because I'm not sleeping enough, because I'm not moving enough, because of how the chemistry in the brain works, and we don't really understand everything. They're all related somehow, but these are things that we can treat. If you have jerking or stiffness. Now, Glenda, I have arthritis. So much to my horror, the first 4 steps I take every time I get out of bed, I look just like my mother.
Mm.
So it takes me a few creepy little steps before the joints unglue and I can then move normally. So just as you're normal moving around, make sure you're standing up straight. Make sure you're holding yourself erect. Make sure that you're doing all the things we were taught to do, because when we're full of anxiety, when we're full of depression, we tend to walk like this, we're bent over, and that actually causes more pain, Glenda. And then if you have a loved one whose back is already naturally bending, it means not just that their back is bending, it means that you have thousands of tiny muscle structures whose full intention is to hold your spine erect. And if your spine is bent, it means those muscles are no longer strong, or it means the disc in your back are actually full of thousands of minute fractures. So talk to the doctor about that so you can get treated for pain. We don't ask for pain medication because we're Americans. Mine and Glenda's case, we're Texans. Texans don't have pain. We don't ask for pain medicine because we're Texans. But the reality is we all hurt. If you are grinding your teeth. Now, Glenda, I grew up in sort of a dysfunctional family. And I remember going to the dentist. I spent my wicked 20s in Florida. I was in the dentist and I ground my teeth, and I realized I would clench down and grind my teeth. And I went to the dentist and she said, "Oh, good heavens, you're 24 and you've ground off 30% of the enamel on your teeth." And I said, "Well, how much does it cost to put the enamel back on?" And that's when she said, "You can't. You either begin to recognize and deal with the anxiety that's causing you to grind your teeth, or you'll end up with dentures in your 30s or 40s. And so that was one of the things that started me. So grinding teeth is not just a sign of I'm really annoyed with you, Glenda. It's also a sign of I am so full of anxiety that this is one of the ways my body is reacting to it. Do you have an unsteady voice? And what that means, Glenda, is your voice goes up and down, but it doesn't sound firm. You're not speaking with conviction. You've got a weakness to your voice. And do you have increased muscle tone? Meaning that things don't feel right. Your body just doesn't feel right. Under sensory, somatic sensory things, tinnitus. One of the things that most caregivers of people with dementia don't realize is people with dementia develop tinnitus. And tinnitus is a constant ringing in the ears. Now, tinnitus can be caused because I went to a concert last night, Glenda. Even though I said I don't like to go to crowds, I did go to a crowd. I listened to a concert. I was sitting right by the giant 24-foot speaker, and now my ears are still ringing. That's a tinnitus, but it's going to go away. This is a constant thing that happens driven by anxiety because your body's trying to tell you something's wrong. And in the case of dementia, it's something that occurs in a much higher rate of people than we realized. And it's one of the reasons why your loved one doesn't respond to you correctly. They cannot hear you over the ringing sound that is occurring in their hearing. They may have, you may experience a blurring of vision. And as we get older, we're all aware of visual changes. Your lens begins to harden. Your vision gets a little bit better as you age. You just still may have to drop the menu on the floor in the restaurant to be able to read it if you forgot your bifocals. But it can feel like a blurring of vision. And then things that you may not expect, hot or cold flushes. And because they come so quickly, you may not be paying attention to them, but a sudden reddening of the face as though you're embarrassed, or a sudden chill when you shouldn't feel chills, hot or cold flushes, feelings of weakness, and then prickling sensation. And some of these, Glenda, I realize also follow feelings of people with dementia. So there is a form of Alzheimer's where the person feels like their skin is being pricked. That's not what we're talking about. This is not a dementia. This is anxiety. So your skin just feels differently. Cardiovascular systems are, Glenn, you ever feel like your heart was racing?
Oh, yeah.
Something happened, you got a little scared, you got a little anxious, some phone call you got and you realize your heart is racing. That's tachycardia. You may even have palpitations where you hold your chest, and everyone on here at some point in time has thought, good Lord, I think I'm having a heart attack, except most of us are female. So we know that would really be kidney issues and we would be throwing up, but it does scare you. And the doctor needs to know that you're having pains in your chest, you're having palpitations, you're having a sudden rushing of your heart beating because it's your heart trying to deal with anxiety. Throbbing of the vessels. Some people, Glenda, can actually feel their vessels throbbing right here, which is to me just extremely high sense of you're dealing with an anxiety. Sudden feelings of fainting or feeling like your heart has missed a beat. And because it's cardiovascular, you get picked up by 911, you get taken to the ER and you say, I'm having chest pains. And they do blood work and say, nope, you haven't had a heart attack, and send you home without ever asking you, are you having anxiety? And so by doing your Hamilton Anxiety Rating Scale, you're able to show the doctor these are the things that are happening. And Glenda, it doesn't have to be all of them. You only need a few of these to be testing positively for anxiety. Tonight, let me see, pressure or constriction in the chest. Again, that makes you think I'm having a heart attack, and it's not, it's anxiety. Choking feelings. This is one of my big ones that we see all the time, and we see this in dementia care, is just deep, deep sighing. And it's the body's natural response to anxiety. You can have gastrointestinal symptoms. And again, because anxiety goes all over the body, Glenda, you missed that your heart racing and then feeling like you're having pain in your chest. And then you got sick at your stomach. And then you started to feel like your stomach was on fire and burning. You thought, I'm having a heart attack. And you went to the hospital and they ran the enzyme test and said, nope, no heart attack, and sent you home. Nobody checked you for anxiety. So having difficulty swallowing, abdominal pain, burning sensations, abdominal fullness. You may feel, Glenda, a lot of times people describe it as feeling like there's a big, heavy, hot rock in their stomach and it doesn't move. It just feels like a big, heavy thing there. Nausea, vomiting, and that can also be accompanied with diarrhea, loose bowels, or constipation, or a loss of weight. And remember, when we talk about loss of weight, we talk about you're losing weight without trying to lose weight. That is an actual sign of anxiety, but it can easily get misinterpreted by the doctor because you didn't let them know these are all the other things that are happening. Number 12, which is genitouria symptoms. This is primarily stuff to do with men and their ability to urinate or ejaculate, sudden loss of libido and impotence. And for men, again, you need to see the doctor because our culture sort of thinks that as you age, men are going to lose their impotence. I invite them to meet Robert De Niro. It tells you that men are going to get older and they're not going to be able to have ejaculations. I invite you to meet Robert De Niro and some of his friends. They're in their 80s and they've all just fathered children. It mainly has to do with things that are different for you that would be normal. Now, if you're on a heart medication and you're male, if you're on high blood pressure medication, if you're on any sort of cardiovascular medication, you're also going to need to talk to your doctor because those things alone can stop you from being able to have a satisfying sexual experience because of what the medication is doing to blood pressure, as well as to the thickness and ability of blood to have an effect on a man. Autonomic systems, a dry mouth. And I don't mean because we're in Texas and it's 187 degrees outside, Glenda. I just mean a dry mouth, even though you just had a glass of water. Feeling that you're flushing. People may tell you your coloring, your pallor is gray, your pallor is too light, your pallor is blue, your coloring doesn't look the way that it should for you. A sudden tendency to sweat, but that's also can be a tendency to sweat, Glenda, followed by giddiness. And giddiness is you're giggling and feeling silly, but there's nothing to feel silly about. A tension headache, and then raising of the hair. The hair in the back of your neck is a surefire teller of I've approached a person with behavioral variant FTD and my brain tells me this person could scare me. Or it's a sign of an autonomic system that tells you you're experiencing acute anxiety. And then during the interview with the doctor, are you fidgeting? Now, I fidget normally. My mother said I could amuse myself with a blade of grass and a cannonball. I'm a drummer, so I naturally tap and drum things, but it's fidgeting, it's restlessness or pacing, tremor in the hands. And tremor in the hands, Glenda, always makes people think of Parkinson's, but this is not Parkinson's. This is an anxiety feature. A furrowed brow, but a furrowed brow also looks like depression or pain. Strained face, sighing. This is twice now we've talked about sighing. Rapid respiration. Some people, Glenda, when they're anxious, hold their breath. That's something I tend to do. Other people begin to breathe more rapidly and actually shorten their breath and increase the possibility of becoming, what is it, Glenda, when you need to breathe in a bag?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but it doesn't come to me
You're
right now.
short CO2 now because you're breathing too
Yeah,
rapidly.
Yeah.
And
Thank you. Hyperventilation.
you.
Thank you, Anna.
God bless you,
Thanks
Anna.
a village.
So again, facial pallor, and something people with anxiety do is they swallow frequently. Now, how many of those things that I name that you knew were signs of anxiety, how many things did I name that you realize, oh my gosh, I'm doing that? Or you know a caregiver who's doing that. So simply take your HAM-A, your Hamilton Anxiety, and you can Google it if you don't have the book or you don't have my website. It's a scale available in our public domains, but it's the Hamilton Anxiety Rating Scale. And your doctor needs to see you and needs to know that you filled that out. Now, the next one I want to do is it's not necessarily for you, other than the fact that I want you to realize you really have been doing care for a long, long time. Glenda, I cannot tell you the number of people I meet who say, yeah, about 3 months ago, we've been dementia caregivers. And if this started 3 months ago, you wouldn't be calling me. So what I like about this one, and this is called the short IQ code, and IQ code is one word, all in capital letters. And what this forces you to do as a family caregiver is, instead of realizing what you've done the last 3 months, it says, what have you been doing for the last 10 years? Because the average dementia family is a caregiver 10 or more years before they finally reach out to others for help. Not because you weren't good, but because it reached a point where you needed additional help because you could no longer do this on your own. So compared to 10 years ago, and each answer is either they've improved, they're a little bit improved, there's been no change, they're a bit worse, or they're much worse. How is your friend at remembering family and friends' occupations, birthdays, and addresses? And Glenda, I know you have a friend in particular that you're worried about. So how would you answer that? From 10 years ago, it would be much worse.
Much worse.
Okay. Remembering things that have happened recently. And remember, recently means I just told you this information this morning. I just told you this yesterday. We took a family trip to go watch this movie. It was an hour away. We had dinner out, and now you can't remember that we did that the night before. That's not only a sign of dementia, it's a sign that a particular part of the brain is damaged, the hippocampus, which makes new memory. So things that happened recently, are they much improved, a bit improved, not much change, a bit worse, or Glenda, much worse?
Oh, yeah, I see
And
Anna's
we've got our
doing,
thumb going down.
yeah,
Recalling conversations that happened only a few days ago. Are they much improved, a bit improved, not much change, a bit worse, or much worse? And remember, when you see that, again, the thumb goes down. When you see that, it's not an indicator that your person is trying to make your life difficult. It's actually an indicator the hippocampus in their brain has now died. And it doesn't matter how many times I repeat it, they cannot learn it. You know, Glenda, I had a daughter once who was a good daughter, but she was mad at her mother because her mother refused to learn her granddaughter's name. And for the life of me, I could not get this daughter to understand this has nothing to do with your mother as your mother. This means that the piece of her brain that does that doesn't exist anymore. And that's all it means. That's all that it means. It's nothing on purpose. Remembering his or her address or phone number. Are they about the same? Is it a little bit worse, or is it much worse? And Glenda will tell you, one of the things that we find when we go into a person with dementia's home during the move is they will have written their address and phone number down over and over and over again, neatly folded it and put it in a drawer. They take toilet paper apart piece by piece, neatly fold it and put it in a drawer. They take tissue out of the box, neatly fold it and put it in a drawer. They write down the names of their children over and over and over again, fold it neatly and put it in a drawer. And this is a sign of the hippocampus dying, not a sign of they're making notes. And I'm careful when I say this, Glenda, because some people make lists when they go to the grocery store. That's a normal thing. But if you're doing the same thing over and over again, then it's not. Does that make sense, Glenda?
uh-huh.
Okay. Remembering what day and month it is. You know, we didn't even go to the year there. We're just day and month. Now, this to me is these days and months things are sort of, I'm not sure they're fair questions, Glenda, because you ever go on vacation? And I know you have, Glenda, because I know where you've gone. But were you ever on vacation and you thought to yourself, oh, it's Wednesday? And then you found out, no, it's Thursday and the vacation's over in 2 days. And you were like, drats, the vacation is over in 2 days. I've lost a day. You're no longer getting up and going to work every Monday. People don't go to church on Sunday anymore. People may not go to church. Sundays told us we're at church, we're starting our week. Monday told us we're really starting our week now because it's Monday, first day of work. Because of 24-hour schedules, because people work all the time now. We've sort of lost that. But do you notice that they're having trouble remembering what season it is? What month it is. And then after I've chatted with someone for a little while, I'll slip in, do you know what year it is or what year it feels like? And if they tell me it's 1943, then that means they've lost memory back to 1943 because that's now their date. Did that make sense, Glenda?
It does.
Remembering where things are usually kept. Are they much improved, a bit improved, not much change, a bit worse, or much worse? And then going with that question, remembering where things would be if they had been put in a different place than usual. So normally I might put my dish detergent for dishes on top of the windowsill above the sink, but I also might put it down underneath the sink in the cupboard. Would they know where to go to look for this thing that's missing? remembering, knowing how to work familiar machines around the house. And that is rapidly changing because there's been machines that have been added like iPads, iPhones, clickers, computers, and all of that. And remember, you've got to be very, very careful because your person can get rid of all of your assets. There's actually, I got a notice, Glenda, I'm sure you did too. There is a scam going through the country that is targeting the elderly to get their money. And it is so traumatic when the normal aging elderly realizes what they've fallen ploy to. We have this sudden shoot up in suicide because they realize, oh my gosh, I've given away all my money. And their reaction is suicide. Learning how to use a new machine or gadget around the house. We're getting those all the time, things that we never had before. Is your loved one much improved or are they much worse? Learning new things in general. And Glenda, that doesn't mean learning how to do a new hobby. That means, does your loved one know the name of the new grandchild? And if they don't, it doesn't mean they hate that grandchild. It means that part of the brain is damaged. Can they follow a story in a book or on TV? And Glenda, I had a lady once in Virginia, and we realized she loved the Lone Ranger. So the best I could find were 3 episodes of the Lone Ranger. And we would put them on the television for her and set her all up with popcorn and soda to watch her Lone Ranger. I realized after a few days, the same thing happens in every Lone Ranger episode. There's a bad guy, chases the bad guy, catches the bad guy. There's a giant rock on the Paramount Ranch where all of the Westerns were filmed. Some days the Lone Ranger gets jumped at that rock. Sometimes Tonto has to jump off that rock. Sometimes the fight happens at that rock. But really the same thing happened every time. Those shows the person is following because the good guy meets the bad guy, beats the bad guy, and in the end, we're all happy. That's not the same as some of these other shows that we're watching. So those older shows work better for your loved one. But I have had many, many people tell me, I watch the television, but I can tell he has no idea what we're watching. He's just sitting there because I'm sitting there. Making decisions on everyday matters. Has that much improved, a bit improved, or has that gotten worse? And as part of your job as a caregiver, are you now the person doing all of the decision making and it's suddenly all fallen to you? Handling money for shopping. Would any of you actually turn your loved one loose in the store with money, or have you noticed they're a bit worse? They actually can't be trusted because the value of money no longer means anything to them. Glenda, I have 24 great nieces and nephews. 15 of them are under the age of 10. I have a 6-year-old and a 5-year-old set of great nephews that are brothers. Every Christmas, I give them their Christmas present in ones because they think they've got riches beyond imagination. I give their 10-year-old sister a $100 bill because she knows what that $100 bill means. But to the little fellas, they think they're filthy rich because they've got more money than their sister does, and they don't realize they've got the same amount. They just think they have more. And so you begin to see changes in that. Handling financial matters. One of the things that you and I have both seen, Glenda, is a person with dementia quits their job, turns their pension over to the company, and comes home and tells their spouse, I quit my job today and I gave up my pension. So there are very real repercussions of what happens with this disease. And then handling everyday arrhythmic problems, knowing how to buy food, knowing how long it's been since you visited with families or friends. And then finally, using the person's intelligence to be able to understand what is going on and what is going on around them. And so those are things that change during the course of the disease. And that's why I like the YouTube or the short IQ code so well, because it allows you, the family, to go back and look at this person and go, realistically, really have been doing care 10 years, and everything you're witnessing as these changes occur is actually brain damage. Now, Glenda, we're going to get to the ugly stuff.
That was ugly?
No, it gets ugly now.
Oh.
The Zarit burden interview. Now, the Zarit burden interview is graded on never, rarely, sometimes, quite frequently, or nearly always. And the purpose of the Zarit burden interview, Glenda, is not to say Glenda's a good person or a bad person. The simple structure of it is to say Glenda is under so much stress that she can no longer do the things she would have done in the past. So it is not a measure or a judgment of you as a person. It is a measurement of your stress level. So 0 means never, 4 means nearly always. Do you feel your relative asks for more help than he or she needs? And that is usually a nearly always, because families
0.
don't understand this is brain damage, right?
Mm.
That makes sense, Glenda?
Yeah, I was watching Vanessa. She said 0.
Vanessa.
0. That's not okay. That's 0.
Do you feel that because of the time you spend with your relative, you don't have enough time for yourself?
Anna, what do you think about that one?
Where to start?
Oh.
Gotcha.
Oh, not enough time for yourself. And Glenda, if you're being shadowed, Anna, you may be being shadowed. Shadowed means I can't even go to the bathroom without this person right there next to me. Your stress level is even higher. Because
Not
you
totally
can't
yet,
go anywhere.
but I'm preparing. She is still very, very independent, to a fault. Thinks that she's the one who needs to make financial decisions. I mean, we've got 2 dead trees that we've taken down. She doesn't want to pay for them. We've got a sink right now where the tap continues to run after the tap's turned off. I was told leave it for my brother. I leave on Sunday for a 19-day respite after a year. So I will have a break. 19 days I get to spend with my kids in my home, 3 states away, and I am so looking forward to it. But
Yeah.
things in this past year that I've been here have really dramatically.
Now, y'all know you can get faucets that will turn off after a few seconds to avoid floods.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll make sure my brother knows that when he replaces it while I'm gone.
You're going to need to tell him that, because it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like he's understanding what you've been doing.
Yeah.
Do you feel stressed between caring for your relative and trying to meet other responsibilities with family or with work? One of you's rocking a baby, and you probably got an adult baby in another room. It's just one of them you can actually rock and one you can't, right? No, nobody will answer. They don't even want to talk anymore. This
Peggy's
is a big
busy.
one, and this is normal.
I do have a baby here, and I'm the daycare where he goes doesn't have an opening till school starts, so I'm helping my daughter out, and trying to. He's right over here. He's been pretty settled at the moment, but yeah, it's hard because I want to take care of I want to help with my grandbabies,
Sure.
and but we have learned that I cannot watch Samuel, who is 3 months, and Lucy, who is 3 years, and Daryl all at the same time. It's too much. I can't do it.
Right.
So we have to divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And you know what's really hard for those of you who are grandmothers, in the American culture, grandmothers are responsible for passing down the family history and the family lineage. It falls upon our grandmothers to do that. And so if we lose you, we lose all of that history. The other thing, Glenda, is I have yet to meet a family who says, yeah, my husband would be thrilled to know I'm killing myself while he's dying of a terminal brain disease. The answer is they would be furious with me if they knew what I was doing. So yet we have to realize the toll it takes on you so that we can get them into care. but you have you be the survivor, because we want you to see that 3-month-old graduate high school. We want you to see you watch them walk across the stage at college. We want you to be there at their wedding and when they hand you a great grandchild. And we need you guys to take care of yourself so that you can be there for those things. How many of you are embarrassed over your relative's behavior? And this is not, this does not mean they're a bad person. There is a stigma that goes with dementia. How many of you have noticed that friends don't call, friends don't come by, you're not invited to stuff anymore, you've been sort of left out on your own? And that's a very real thing. People are embarrassed because they don't understand this person has brain damage. And if we could just get them to understand that, they would act differently. I swear, Glenda, if we just called it brain cancer, everybody would act differently.
I
But because
agree.
they don't understand dementia means the brain is dying, they
Yeah.
don't, and they think the behavior is on purpose. And I want you to listen to this one. How many of you feel angry around your relative?
Hmm.
And the anger doesn't make you a bad person. It could simply mean, I am so exhausted, I can't do this anymore. I simply cannot do this anymore. And I encourage you, wherever you are, call your area agency on aging. It will come up for your location there across the entire U.S. There are some area agencies on aging that are able to pay for your loved one to be in 24-hour respite care for a week to 3 months. And that's a lifesaver. Not everybody has millions of dollars. Some people are going to have to do respite care, but if you don't do it, you end up dying first. And this usually causes, Glenda, the most horrific look on a family's face. If you die right now, who steps up from your family to do the job you've been doing? And the answer is nobody. They will stick them in the cheapest place they can find, and that'll be the end of that. So you've got to be aware. And if you're feeling anger around your relative, that's also a sign of depression, which we can treat. It's a sign of exhaustion, which we can treat. And it's a sign of anxiety. And it's normal. If it wasn't normal, they wouldn't have it on the test. Do you feel that your relative currently affects your relationship with other family members or friends in a negative way? And that's pretty common, Glenda. I mean, how many times have you and I been told that the kids won't come visit because they don't want to deal with mom? They can't bear to see mom because I guess in their life, they're never going to see death. So we'll just keep it hidden from everybody. But that is also a common thing that happens. Are you afraid of what the future holds for your relative? Especially if something happens to you. Your relative has a terminal brain disease. You do not. Our goal is to take care of you. Your loved one's going to get care one way or the other. If something happens to you, somebody's going to put them in a skilled facility. They're going to go off to care. But what about you? And what can we do to keep you alive and to keep you as being the survivor? Do you feel that your relative is dependent upon you? And you must, or you wouldn't be on this phone call. Is pretty much my feeling about it. Do you feel strained when you're around your relative? Well, how many of you live with them 24 hours a day? I mean, we got to get you out for 19 days and get you out of the state. We got to get you gone, put you on a plane and get you somewhere. Look at the community closest to you that does memory care or a skilled facility with a memory care. Tell them they're going to do physical rehab and the doctor ordered it, and get you a week or 2 weeks of respite care. I know families that don't have millions of dollars for private care, but every 3 months they make sure that person goes to respite care for 2 weeks to a month so that the family caregiver will be the survivor. You're not the one with the terminal brain illness. We've got to keep you alive. Does that make sense, Glenda, or does it sound like I'm being mean to people? I don't want to be mean.
No, you're not being mean. You're offering them a lifeline. So no, it's what caregivers need to know.
Do you feel like your own health has suffered because of the involvement of your relative? And we know that it has, because 3 out of 10 of you will die before the person with dementia dies. So how many of you feel like your own health has been placed in peril because of what you're trying to do? Most of you have a blacked out screen. You're like, we're not even looking at her. Do you feel you don't have as much privacy as you would like because of your relative? What do you think, Glenda?
Well, it's like you were saying, if somebody's following you around, if you can't even go to the bathroom and have a moment's peace with private things, how could you not feel that you've suffered because of the involvement? Or it may be that you're not living with them yet, but you're going to their house, you're taking them grocery shopping, you're taking them, yes, to medical appointments, you're doing all of that other stuff until you get to that point that you have to move in or make another decision.
Question number 12 is, do you feel your social life has suffered because you're caring for your relative? But Glenda, I also want to ask this. Do you feel like your church life has suffered because of the care for your relative? I know people that can no longer go to church where they draw in good feelings from the people around them, where you get yourself reset, where you feel yourself reset with your God or your Lord or whatever you worship, whoever you worship. And now you can't do that because you can't get up and get yourself ready and get them ready. And then you get them to church and, oh my God, what if they do something? So you can't even relax in church because where people should be the most caring for you, they may not be. So I don't think it's just on number 12. I don't think it's just that social life suffers. I think it's our spiritual life suffers it well. Number 13 is, do you feel uncomfortable having friends over because of your relative? Because they don't understand what's wrong, or how many of you have noticed you don't have friends anymore? And that's a very, very real thing that begins to happen. We don't know if it's that people think, oh, if I'm around him, I'm going to get dementia now too, or if it's a scary thing to remind them of what could happen to them. Remember, these are diseases of aging, but they're not normal aging. And Glenda, while we're talking about normal aging, I always forget this. So has everybody read something that says normal brain atrophy and aging? And that immediately makes you think, as we age, our brain develops dementia. But here's what they're not telling you. After the age of 35, all of our organ systems begin to atrophy. I mean, how many of you have to wear something special if you go out to see a comedian because one good joke and one good sneeze and you've piffled your panties, right? Those of you who were mothers, you had a baby sit on your bladder for 9 months. Those of you who had multiple babies, you had a bladder, and then another one sit on there, and then one of them kicked you all the time, and then one of you had twins. God knows what they were doing to your bladder. But in all of the organ systems, there is a normal atrophy or aging that comes with getting older. What they don't tell you, Glenda, is all of your organ systems work above 100%, so that you have normal brain atrophy and aging is no different than if they were looking at your kidney, they would say normal kidney atrophy with aging. It's just that they don't bother to tell you that. All of the systems are aging, but all the systems work above 100%. And the brains of an older person are thicker and richer and have more experience and more dendrite or root growth than younger people do. So the thought of my brain atrophying as I age doesn't worry me a bit in the world, because my brain already works above 100%. I mean, look at your loved ones. They have to lose a pound of their brain tissue before they even look physically sick to an outsider. Your systems work above normal, so don't be thrown by that normal brain atrophy stuff. Do you feel that your relative seems to expect you to take care of him or her as if you were the only one he or she could depend on?
We hear a lot of
You
families
found
that
out
there's
you got
one
siblings.
person.
One person doing it all. And how many of you are stepchildren? Boy, if you'll be the stepchildren and step up, I bet the children never show up at all because someone else is doing what should have been their job. How many of you feel you don't have enough money to take care of your relative in addition to the rest of your expenses? And if you're not raising your hand, I'm just going to go ahead and say you're a fibber. How many of you feel you will be unable to take care of your relative much longer?
Mm.
And you have to be honest. If your loved one is in stage 5 on the dementia behavioral assessment tool, you're doing the work of 12 professionals who come in every 8 hours. If they are in stage 6, you're doing the work of 16 people. And what Glenda, what people will say to me is, oh, it's not that bad. He can do some of these things. It's that bad.
It is that
You've
bad.
just developed, you've come to a point where you can't see it anymore because of your very own exhaustion, because of your anxiety, and because of your depression. Do you feel you've lost control of your own life since your relative's illness? And for most of you, it would be, yeah, because you're over there in the corner waiting to go away for 19 days to see your family, and you probably wanted to see them 3 months ago and couldn't go. So it's a reality. Do you wish you could leave the care of your relative to someone else? Except you and I don't trust those other people. Lots of times we're not really sure what they're
That's
up
right.
to. Every single family has crazy. Every family's got someone who's looking for mama's jewelry or daddy's money or some way to make this into their own. We saw a change after 2008 when the real estate market crashed and when the interest rates changed. And we had gone from seeing children who would come to us and say, here's mom and dad's money. They earned it. Take every dime it takes to do their care. And now we have children that come to us and go, listen, that's my inheritance. How much is this going to cost? How long is this going to take? And that's a completely different child to deal with. And that is something that we see on a routine basis. How many of you feel uncertain about what to do with your relative? And the answer is they have to have medical care. And that comes down to finances. How do you take care of them and still keep you alive? And if it's an issue of money, then we have to look at respite care as a way to keep you alive. How many of you feel you should be doing more for your relative? Not a single person raised their hand because they've already given up their life, their jobs, their everything else they should be doing in this part of life. And you're doing it trying to take care of somebody who's 80 years old, weighs 190 pounds, but has the mental equivalency of a child. And that's very difficult care to do. How many of you think you could do a better job of caring for your relative?
This is
I told
a really
Glenda this
good
morning,
one.
I said, if we could clone you 7 or 8 times, I bet you'd do an awesome job. It's the same for any of you. If we could just clone you and make 20 of you, then it'd be okay, but we can't. And we have to eventually reach the realization that this is a medical disease that requires medical care. Overall, how burdened do you feel in caring for your relative? And that does not make you a bad person. That simply makes you human. You're doing the work of a team of trained and licensed professionals. So now, Glenda, because I like to end on a happy note, let's do the geriatric depression scale.
Well, let's
This is
talk
be
about
yes
this a
or
minute.
no.
Well,
Yes
let's
or
talk
no.
about this a minute.
You want to?
Yeah, well, no, what I'm saying is that we're after the hour already, and we have people that have been waiting to get their questions answered. And so it's your call. Do we want to go the depression scale or do we want to answer questions?
Let's do the depression scale. It's only 15 questions. The answer is yes or no. It's how you felt in the last week. And
Okay, Vanessa likes that. Vanessa, I see your hands up. We'll get to you right after the depression scale.
Okay, Glenda, this is not, maybe, let me tell you a story. This is yes or no, the last week, how you felt. And I want you to write your answer down, yes or no, Y or N. Are you basically satisfied with your life? Yes or no? Have you dropped many of your activities and interest? Yes or no? Do you feel that your life is empty? Yes or no? Do you often get bored? Yes or no? Are you in good spirits most of the time? Yes or no? Are you afraid something bad is going to happen to you? Yes or no? Do you feel happy most of the time? Yes or no? Do you often feel helpless? Yes or no? Do you prefer to stay at home rather than go out and do things? Yes or no? Do you feel you have more problems with memory than most? Yes or no? Do you think it is wonderful to be alive now? Yes or no? Do you feel worthless the way you are now? Yes or no? Do you feel full of energy? Yes or no? Do you feel that your situation is hopeless? Yes or no? Do you think most people are better off than you are? Yes or no? Now, in your itty bitty book, we also have the answers right over here. So let's go through the answers. Glenda, are you basically satisfied with your life? If you answered no, make an X. Have you dropped many of your activities or interest? If you answered yes, make an X. Do you feel your life is empty? If you answered yes, make an X. Do you often get bored? If you answered yes, make an X. Are you in good spirits most of the time? If you answered no, make an X. Are you afraid something bad is going to happen to you? If you answered yes, make an X. Do you feel happy most of the time? If you answered no, make an X. Do you often feel helpless? If you answered yes, make an X. Do you prefer to stay at home rather than go out and do things? If you answered yes, make an X. Do you feel you have more problems with memory than most? If you answered yes, make an X. Do you think it is wonderful to be alive now? If you answered no, make an X. Do you feel worthless the way you are now? If you answered yes, make an X. Do you feel full of energy? If you answered no, make an X. Do you feel your situation is hopeless? If you answered yes, make an X. Do you think most people are better off than you are? If you answered yes, make an X. If you made 5 or more X's, you just tested positively for depression. And depression is called pseudo dementia because when you have depression, it causes you to have trouble with cognition and memory and concentration. And it will, especially because you're the caregiver of somebody with dementia, it will make you believe that you have it too, when what you have is something that's actually treatable. Glenda, most family caregivers need an anxiety and an antidepressant medicine for 6 months to 2 years to allow their brain chemistry to heal from the process of caregiving. And the most common thing I hear is, I don't want to take medicine. We've now discovered that if you go 10 years without your depression being treated, you develop Alzheimer's as well. And we don't understand the connection. We just know there is one. So go see your doctor. And if your doctor says, yeah, that caregiving, that's tough, get a better doctor. Look for one that's board certified. Board certified doctors were at the top of the class. Other doctors not board certified, they were at the bottom part of the class. I'd rather have the top person. Does that make sense, Glenda?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, I'm ready.
You are?
I am.
I'm
Now that
just-
I've depressed
I'm
all of
just-
you beyond belief, beyond what you thought was possible, the baby's even crying.
Oh, Peggy must have put the baby to bed. Thank goodness. Okay, Vanessa, I know you still have a question, but let me start because we were way back an hour ago when some of these questions were asked. All right, Peggy, you were asking about the PACE program. You're trying to get Daryl accepted there. for those of you that don't know about the PACE program, it's a program for all inclusive care for the elderly. It's a nursing home alternative, right, Peggy?
Yes, it's the,
Community based.
yes, you have to be, you have to be qualified to be in a nursing home to get in the program, which he's already,
Exactly.
that's that part.
Exactly. And it's interesting, Peggy, because when I retired from the Area Agency on Aging was about the time that the PACE program was just getting started. And so I'm sure it's developed since I was aware of it. I do see, I was doing research while Tam was talking. It's in 33 states now. And so you can't be on a Medicare Advantage plan. There's certain criteria that you can't have going on. You can't be in hospice in order to qualify. But the services that you get provided in a nursing home are provided in your home by community-based organizations as opposed
Right, and
to
I'm just not sure of what the, I mean, the financial part, because they said it's, yes, you're on Medicaid, but it's not like regular Medicaid, and we're
Right.
not on Medicaid, so they're trying to
Right.
get it approved, and I don't really understand how all that works.
Well, of course, you know, Medicaid is a financial eligibility program as opposed to Medicare. So
Right.
you don't have financial eligibility. So that's what they're talking about there. The thing I would say to you, Peggy, when it comes to the PACE program, yes, you're going to have services in your home for Daryl, et cetera. But as opposed to going in a nursing home where you're relieving yourself of a lot of that care, you're still there 24/7. And so you have to consider that part of enrolling in that program too, is what I'd say.
Well,
It's gonna work well for you as
yeah,
well as Daryl.
I think they have a day thing where he could go during the
Good.
day.
Good, a day program,
And
yes.
yes, and that they're gonna have a doctor, a dentist, an eye doctor, a physical therapist, all there in-house that talk to one another and know how to work with dementia patients. Cause I found out like just going to the dentist is very, very difficult.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, so
So,
they try and fill all the gaps that you need in care and in service in this program. It's an all-in-one.
but I just don't know if we'll qualify financially is
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
concerned
And I
about.
don't have
We're
the
not
answer
rich,
for
but
you.
we don't, we're not in
Yeah.
poverty yet.
So it is an alternative, but like I say, is that gonna help you as the caregiver? And so since we're trying to help you as a caregiver, that would be my question to you to evaluate for yourself. Is it really gonna relieve, or is it time for Daryl to, maybe go to a nursing facility or a dementia care? And we all can't afford that. We know that. And so that's something else you have to weigh if you do qualify.
Right. I'm trying to, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things there I don't know the answer to. In some, yeah, it's because his night hollering and all that's not any better. But well, I say it's a little better. They've got him on a new medication that's helping a little bit.
Right.
But I'm trying. I can't get y'all's pictures back. I don't know what I've done.
Well, what do you mean his night hollering?
Yeah, he's got well, he's been diagnosed with REM sleep disorder, and so
Okay, and then does he see children?
does he see children? No, he's not having, and I know he's not diagnosed with Lewy body, and I know that's a Lewy body thing, and that's what the psychiatrist said. She said, this is so weird because that's usually a Lewy body thing, and that's not what he's been diagnosed with. He's not really having hallucinations that I can tell. If he is, he's not verbalizing them. I did the pain scale thing. I don't think it's pain because it's like when he first lays down, he's fine. It's always, you could set the clock by it.
Is he on Aricept, Residine, or Exelon?
None of those.
Is he on Donezepam?
No, he's on clonazepam and risperidone.
ask your pharmacist. Some of those medicines cause night terrors, which would be mistaken for REM sleep behavior disorder.
Well, he had the symptoms before he started taking those.
Hmm.
And they have gotten somewhat better. Used to, he would holler like that all night. And now after about 3 hours, he kind of calms down and goes to, you know, I don't know if he goes to sleep or he's already been asleep, but anyway, he quiets down after about 3 hours. And before it would go on all night long.
Hmm.
But
Do the Hamilton anxiety scale on him and do the Cornell scale for depression in dementia. Because both of those would also cause that behavior.
okay, so what would be the remedy for it if
They
that were
would
to
adjust his antidepressant or change his antidepressant, or they would adjust an anxiety medicine or change it.
okay, so the Cornell,
Cornell scale for depression in dementia.
okay,
Looks like this right here. Every scale that I give you is a geriatric scale, and it is used because of, you can't ask people with dementia to give you a true answer because they don't understand what you're asking. So it just looks like this. It's the Cornell scale for depression and dementia.
well, there
You
you
simply
are.
read it, write down what you're seeing, grade it from 0 to it's not there to it's severe and I'm seeing it all the time. And that's a behavioral thing. That's also a cyclical function of sleep. And it can also be related to medication, or it could be related to stroke activity. But they're missing something because that should be treated. And your doctor's right. That's normally a giveaway sign of Lewy bodies.
Yeah. Well, as I mean, since he's so far along in his dementia, can you start getting other types that just kind of meld together?
You will begin to develop Alzheimer's. We know will join other dementias. We have some secondary dementias that will happen if another dementia is already in place. So you can have a person with an atypical feature of Lewy bodies. And remember, there are 9 forms of Lewy bodies. It's not one. It's does he
Right.
have one that doesn't have the hallucinations, but it has the other stuff. And
Gotcha.
so you might talk to the doctor about a medication called Nuplazid, Nuplazid.
Let me write that down because I won't remember it. New closet.
Linda, it's Nuplazid. It is a non-typical antipsychotic developed for Parkinson's and Lewy bodies. And we now know Parkinson's and Lewy bodies can also have the movement disorders of FTD begin to happen. And that can then cause a person to have movements that are different in the night and cause them to scream out. But usually what you're describing is either part of REM sleep behavior disorder, or it is a reaction to a medication. A lot of times people don't realize the medications given for Alzheimer's, like Aricept and the generic is diazepam. One of the side effects of those is night terrors. And so I wouldn't, when I'm talking to the doctor, I wouldn't say he's screaming out in the night. I would be using the medical term of night terrors, because night terrors is more likely to get the doctors.
Well, I think I did use that terminology a couple of times and they were like, no, that's not what it is.
Have you tried night terrors while carrying a big stick with a rusty nail in the end of it?
Yeah,
That may be helpful.
yeah.
No.
Get them
But
to
and there's
listen.
something else. Our psychiatrists, all of those meetings are Zoom. So because it's several hours away and it's really hard to travel with Daryl.
And the psychiatrist should be a geriatric psychiatrist, not a psychiatrist. It should be a specialist. So we
Yeah.
look for geriatric psychiatrist, not a psychiatrist. This is not their
Okay.
specialty.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
I'll
hard
check
to
into
find in
that.
some areas. Yeah, hard to access in some areas, a geriatric psychiatrist.
Where are you located?
I'm in the rural southeastern Kentucky, Corbin,
Mhm.
Kentucky. I'm at the foothill of the Appalachian Mountains.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm saying we have to drive several hours just to see.
Oh, yeah,
know.
and then at the end of the day, you have to balance that with it's a terminal disease. Are they really going to be able to do anything for me? And mainly what we need to do is keep him comfortable and keep you alive.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and yeah, and so I don't know, but I'm hoping this, if we get in this PACE program, I'm hoping that will relieve some of because the way they talked to me, that they will be able to help me with some things like bathing and different things that, that are kind of stressful for me and hard for me. And,
Some
so-
personal care things for Daryl.
personal care, right,
Don't
right.
be afraid to ask for a hospice order. Those are our
Well,
tax.
I have asked for that, and they had sent a hospice nurse out here, and she said he wasn't hospice
They'll
appropriate.
be back. Just keep reminding them they'll be back.
Well, and if she's, Tam, if she's looking at PACE, you can't be in hospice and be on the PACE program.
Well, let's
That
do
may be
PACE
some
and then
of the
let's follow
feedback.
that with hospice.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
Daryl's last job was a hospice chaplain, so I'm kind of
Oh.
familiar. I'm not afraid of hospice because
No.
you know,
It's a good
very familiar.
resource.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So-
Peggy, for your conversation and starting
Okay.
that. The next one was from Anna, and I see she's gone, but maybe if we answer the question, she'll watch the podcast and get her answer. Oh, there you are. Oh, dang, Anna. I was looking down here and I didn't see you. There you Okay, here we go. Here's Anna's question. How do I begin the conversation with mom about her toileting? She's very aware, but I've noticed a small dusting of dried fecal matter after she uses the toilet. She's still doing her own showering, toileting, etc., but this is a recent development.
So recent development, incontinence of bowel immediately makes you think stage 6. There is no conversation to have because you cannot have a logical conversation with a person with brain damage, a teenager, or a drunk person. They've all got brain damage. And so there's no conversation to have. There's just adjusting your routine. So when she's in the shower, you want to try to get her bottom as clean as possible.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that she'll start to do is you have to remember ladies had their unmentionables, and the unmentionables didn't hang out on the line in the wash. They hung in the house.
That's
So
right.
one of the things that we will see people do is they will take off a wet Depends. They will lay it down until it dries. And because of brain damage, they think that Depends is wet because I just washed it. And now I'm going to put it back in my drawer and wear it again. So you have to really pay attention to how they're using their underwear. And then it can't be a big deal. Okay. Because we don't want to be embarrassed about that. But it's also an indicator of a very advanced part of the disease. And so you can't have a conversation with her because she can't understand what you're trying to tell her. And if I tried to tell Glenda, you're not wiping yourself correctly, Glenda would beat the snot out of me. And that's what's going to happen to you. And we don't want that to happen. You have a vacation to go on and we want you to be free while you're on your vacation and not marred by bruises and scratches, claw marks, and bite marks. So it's just one more layer of care that now begins to happen.
Thank you, Anna.
Also, Anna, if this is something and you can go, this began to happen on the day the doctor changed the medicine or within a couple of days of a medication difference, you want to try that. And most people have a bowel movement 45 minutes after eating. We need to relieve our bladder 90 seconds after finishing a meal, but about 30 to 45 minutes afterwards is when we go relieve our bowel. So if we can sort of maybe keep her on that kind of schedule, and then you have to know your loved one's bowel schedule. Did your loved one have a bowel movement twice a day, once every 2 days, once every 3 days? What's normal
Yeah.
for them?
That's another layer because she's not regular at all. And we do a laxative sometimes weekly, a couple of times a week, because constipation is definitely an issue.
So I
I
would then go
push
to my
liquids in a
pharmacist.
big way.
Okay, so I'd go to my pharmacist. I'd take every medicine, including over-the-counter medicines, to my pharmacist and say, is any of this causing constipation? And then before we do a laxative, we first do prune juice. Now, I would never give Glenda a quart of prune juice to drink because she would explode. Instead, you're talking about that little tiny juice glass. It's almost like a shot glass. That's all it takes. So before we start with laxatives, we start with natural things, and they're more likely to drink prune juice because they grew up with it. Mama gave you a prune, but it's a more natural way for the body to try to move fluid. And then also we would look at how much fluid a day are we getting in her. Okay. And it doesn't have to be water. It just can't be caffeine. Okay. Caffeine makes me want to pee. Then I pee. Now I don't have enough fluid in my body to actually move my bowel. So we use Jello is 99% water. We use watermelon is 99% water. Melons are very high in water. Bananas are very good to help the bowels move. A warm drink helps the bowels move with to where I can spot this person needs to go. So a cup of hot chocolate, a cup of hot tea, but decaf, a cup of coffee, decaf, and we can try to help her doing those ways without introducing one more medicine, because laxatives are actually very harsh. So if she were in the community, I'd first look at how many glasses of fluid a day is she getting? And then everybody knows how to check for dehydration, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, don't do that. I was at
Look
a
at
conference
Hannah.
last week. They were all running up to
You
pinch my
got it.
skin. I was like, I'll slap you. It's this here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've been sick for the last few days. I haven't had nearly enough fluid. So I bet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's a white flash there. So yeah. And you're shooting for 8 a day. But if it's fruit juice, if it's Kool-Aid, if it's orange juice, doesn't matter. Whatever makes her happy.
Yep.
And
Thank
y'all remember, as we're in summertime, even though we're in climate controlled buildings, the air in the building is still drier than it is in the wintertime. Okay,
Yeah.
so they can dehydrate even though we're giving them fluid and we're in a climate controlled building. So just be aware of that.
And that includes you as a caregiver.
Yes.
You need that too.
Well, I had a son came home from Europe, and my souvenir was COVID, where some guy coughed on him all the way to Pompeii and back on the Rome trip. So that was my gift from Europe. And you know what? COVID is not a weight loss program, I found out. Doesn't make you weigh any less when you get done.
It does not, even though you can't taste anything. Okay, Vanessa. Hey, we've gotten to you. So Vanessa says, what do you think about reminiscence therapy? I'm finding music from my mother-in-law's childhood helps along with exercises. And she mentions Radio Tasso. I don't know that. She recalls from her young days in Okinawa. She is almost 84 and has vascular dementia.
Yeah, because music still lives over here. Music and cursing are over here. Formal language is over here. Music is the last thing to die. So we want to put on music, and you should see a response to it of music that they like. Now, music that they like. I went into a lady's house once, and she had moved her mother from Mexico City to live with her. And I walked in and classical music was playing. And I said, "Oh, your mom likes Beethoven." And she said, "Oh, no, she hates it." And I said, "Well, why are you playing it?" She said, "Well, the doctor said classical music's good for the brain." Not if you hate it. My biggest fear, Vanessa, is because of my age group, I'll end up in a nursing home and they'll go, "Heavy metal. She likes that heavy metal." And I'm more of a Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, Dolly Parton kind of gal. I don't want to listen to Ozzy Osbourne scream, but that's her biggest fear. So make her a playlist of stuff that she likes. I also had a lady once from France, and I thought, this has got to be the definition of hell. You were raised in France, you're dying of dementia in Texas, the food's not the same, the voices are not the same, the music's not the same. So I got her an Edith Piaf tape because I knew that was in French and she would know Edith Piaf. And we tried to add a cheese course to her meals because she was used to eating a much more elegant meal than we were. And it was just, oh my God, what can we do to make this lady from this part of the world feel as comfortable as possible? And one of the biggest things is going to be the music of her time.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
So
That's why we
anything
play
else,
Ozzy
Vanessa?
Osbourne for Glenda.
Yeah. No, give me, who do I like? The Zac Brown band, anything country, I'm good with it. That's my Texas roots. Okay, Vanessa, did you have another question?
I just wanted to say, firstly, Dr. Tam Cummings, you have been such a blessing to me. And Glenda, thank you. And the lady that only checks in for your hair looks beautiful, Dr. Tam. Seriously. But I just wanted to
We had
say,
no idea you had that kind of accent, or we would be having you do these. Doesn't she sound so fabulous?
Beautiful
thank you.
accent.
Got tea right behind her.
Oh my goodness. I get that all the time. But I'm here in beautiful West Texas. And I want to
We
know
are
where
so
you are.
sorry. Are you lost and do we need to come get you? Did you take
You're
a
not
wrong
in
turn on
Odessa, are
Wednesday?
ya?
'Cause that's happened
Oh my
too.
goodness. You've nailed it, Glenda. Yes.
You're in Odessa?
Yes. Vanessa in
Oh,
Odessa.
my
I
family,
am
I
so
have family in
sorry.
Midland.
I was in Odessa last week. I could have rescued you. Oh my gosh. Okay, Glenda, road trip.
I know. We're gonna have to go through San Antonio though, and then loop around up to Odessa.
Sounds good,
For
ladies.
sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you
I'm
for
so
all that you
sorry. I
do.
bet you didn't know that mud rained from the sky till you moved.
That's
You're
a
right.
Texas
I
joke.
didn't. You're right.
Thank
And
you,
nobody
Vanessa, so
believes you
much.
where you're from, do they? I swear
No.
it rains mud up here. Oh Lord, she's been drinking again, y'all. Drinking.
Yeah, well, and I'm thinking to myself, I didn't know they talk like that in Odessa. That's for sure. I need to move there. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for your kind comments. Okay, Catherine. Okay, I missed Anna a while ago, but I don't see Catherine on here anymore. But let's get to her question. How do you tell an early dementia patient, and then we're talking about her mother, that she will never live independently or drive again? The doctors have been super collaborative and she forgets what they tell her anyway. It comes up almost every time I visit her and she blames her kids for taking the car away. We've been kicking the can down the road, but I wonder when it's appropriate to be truthful. And if so, how to address without a fight erupting. Take
You
the keys
can't be
away. That's a
truthful.
tough one.
Yeah, you can't be truthful. They have brain damage. You
Yeah.
can't have a conversation with them the way we're having with each other. So instead, we blame everything on the doctor. The doctor says you can't drive. As soon as the doctor says you can, we'll get you right back in there. And then the less fuss we make about it, the faster that memory goes away. But you also have to remember, I grew up in the hill country of Central Texas on a working ranch. I started driving when I was 3. It's going to be real hard to get keys away from me if I were to develop dementia versus somebody who grew up and didn't start driving until they were in their teens or their 20s, because it's not as ingrained in their brain structure. So it's nothing for us to sit down and have a rational conversation about. Like I'm trying to tell Glenda, look, your car's broken, 3 wheels are flat. You got to wait till we fix it. You cannot argue with teenagers, drunk people, or people with dementia. You cannot reason with those groups because they all have different things going on with their brain. And in the case of dementia, the brain is dying. So we blame everything on the doctor. Everything that's happening is the doctor's fault because this generation was taught not to argue with a doctor. My generation will be a much, much worse thing because we'll just a new doctor. But for that person, we're not going to argue with them. We're just going to change the subject and redirect as soon as possible. And a wonderful redirector is chocolates or sweet stuff.
I went to visit my friend who Tam's heard me talk about plenty. She has Alzheimer's type dementia. And now on top of that, she has pancreatic cancer. But I went to visit one day and she was getting out of the bed. And I said, well, where are you going? She's like, I got to go to the car. We've got to go to this appointment. And so just like what Tam said, I said, well, girlfriend, we haven't filled that car up because you haven't been able to drive it in a while. And until, you get better, we just can't go in the car. You can't drive. And so she got back in bed and she was fine. You just have to go where they are, right, Tam? You just can't. Yeah. Truth
Just
doesn't help.
redirecting. You can't be, you can't be logical or honest because the pieces of their brain that does that don't exist anymore. And all you're going to do is make them angry. And the anger is going to be focused on you. And we'd rather the anger be focused on that doctor that's not around. That
That's
doctor
right.
did.
That's right. And
Yep.
Anna and Catherine gave some suggestions there, which, is true. If you have an accident and you have a dementia diagnosis, somebody can sue you for everything you have. And so they suggested maybe, using that. Now, whether someone can comprehend that depends on where they are in the disease process.
And they're not going to believe you anyway. You're just
That's
going to make
true.
them suspicious. But if you tell them the doctor said no, or there's been a crash, we can't even get on the highway right now. Or remember last week, all that rain, it wiped out a bridge. I had a bridge wiped out 300 yards from my house. One of the bridges was wiped out during the rain last week. So bridge
That's
washed
right.
out. Car has,
Battery's dead, can't find the keys, whatever works in that particular circumstance is what I believe you should do. So
Yep.
that's me. Her cousin was with us at the time. He says, I can't do that. And I said, what do you mean you can't do that? He said, I can't lie to her that way. And I said, oh, yes, you can. And so I saw him recently and he's been helping with her care. He's bought in now. He's doing what, he's going where she is. And he realizes that that is the way to go with her. Bless her
yeah,
heart.
because we're not lying to people. We're recognizing that this person has brain damage and we are using our empathy as humans. No more than I would tell a 2-year-old reality would I tell a person with dementia reality. Their brain cannot handle it. And so I use my empathy and I respond to their emotion. And the emotion is usually fear or loneliness.
Yeah.
And I can fix fear or loneliness with a donut. It's how I get in everybody's house. Children will go, you'll never get in my mom's house. Oh, yes, I will. I come with donuts. I promise you I will get in. Okay, so it's
Well,
always the doctor's fault. We are not
absolutely.
lying. We are using empathy. Redirect, redirect, redirect. It's always the doctor's fault. And you're not lying. You are being kind to a person with brain damage who cannot understand reality.
Yep. True fact. Well, okay, I've gone through all the questions. We got Vanessa. Does anybody else have a question, a comment, a situation that they need Tam's help with before we say goodbye for today? Oh, went by fast, even though we've been an hour and 40 minutes. Whoa. Anybody
Wow,
have a
they're
question?
good asking us to show up. We go
I
watch it.
just want to thank you all for all you do. You're just wonderful, and it gives caregivers some tools to use and some hope and helps us continue on.
Thank
thank
you, Peggy.
I couldn't do it without Glenda.
And I couldn't do it without Tam, and nobody could do it without all of y'all. So thank you for what you're doing for the person you're caring for. We do have a
once again,
survey. What?
Homework, once again, is to write a letter to yourself about what a good wife, what a good husband, what a good
Absolutely.
daughter, what a good caregiver, what a good son, what a good person you have been.
Yep.
And I realize I'm asking you to do something that's so emotional, but I want you to do this, and then I want you to go put it up when you finish, because there will be a day when you're going to need to remember all the things you did.
Thank you, Letty, for
All
putting
are
those
doing
addresses up.
remarkable care. God bless all of you.
Well, and when you were
Clifford.
when you were doing one of the scales a while ago, and you talked about, do you think you could do a better job? You're doing a great job. You're doing the very best that you can, and we're hard on ourselves, and I know that because I'm that way with myself. And I'm not in a caregiving role. I have been, but I'm not right now. Well, I guess I kind of am because my friend and her dementia and the chaos going on in that family. At any rate, give yourself credit for what you're accomplishing. You're doing a great job. We are going to do our little survey right now, Letty, if you want to put that up. So just take a couple of minutes, fill that out for us, so that we know what you think about the session, what we can do better. If you have any ideas for us about topics or presenters, maybe you've heard somebody in your area. Maxine, I want to go to your driving not an issue, how to explain. how to explain dementia, Maxine? Is that what you're asking? Let's see, she's still with us. Well, I'm not sure what the question is there, Maxine. I apologize. It's probably just me. Driving not an issue, how to explain, and then dementia. Okay.
So much of it is you cannot explain. The human brain does not recognize it's damaged. And if you try to explain to me my brain is damaged, all you're going to do is piss me off. And then guess who I'm mad at?
Hmm.
I'm mad at
Yes.
you. You're obviously up to no good.
Ah,
Yeah,
there's
so
Maxine.
That was my question. I can't get my screen back, but I saw something here that said I could talk. I just don't quite know how to tell him he has dementia.
You can't.
And he keeps, asking, do I have the fish out of the freezer yet? Do we have a lemon? Now, he is in memory care, but sometimes he thinks he's on a ship. He tells me he's going to the galley to
okay.
get coffee,
Oh, that's great. He's having a
But-
cruise.
And I think he does have Lewy body. He does have Parkinson's, and he's had it for some years. But a serious surgery 6 months ago just spiraled him into dementia. And he's better. He's cognizant sometimes, but he was diagnosed with moderate dementia. And he is most of the time controllable. Once in a while, he'll have some behaviors, they call it out there. But I don't know. I just have.
Remember to do your pain ad, because 50% of behaviors are untreated chronic pain. Go
And
to
he will.
nih.gov, Glenda, nih.gov. Type in Lewy bodies, it's plural, bodies handbook. You'll get
Okay.
a 40-page PDF, and you can order a copy of the book. It's the best book on Lewy bodies that I've found.
I have just ordered from Amazon a new book by Kathy Taylor Jarrett, and she does a support group on Lewy bodies dementia, to which I've been active in. And so I'm eager to get that. It'll be in a day or two, but I will write this down. He does have a lot of pain with a knee. They had to remove a knee replacement because it was involved with staph, and have put in a spacer, and he twisted that recently. We're doing ultrasound, going to an orthopedic guy, and this is all
And
just
so
happened.
Yeah, so
But-
he's now got arthritis in there. So use your pain ad, because the physicians don't understand. You can't ask a person in an age group, and you can't ask a male person especially, do you have pain? Because all your life you've been taught to say, no, you don't have pain.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they're not able to give a truthful answer because of our socialization.
And
So
he
you
resists
pain
medication so often. If you
Mhm.
say Tylenol, oh no, I don't need that.
Yeah, because he's been taught all his life to say no,
Right.
the same way you've been taught to say no. So
Mhm.
use your pain ad, and then he should be on routine daily pain medication, because anybody with arthritis will tell you it hurts every stinking day, and some days are worse. And then because they amputated the knee, people don't realize a knee replacement or a hip replacement means they amputated bone, and you know
Right. Yeah.
So do your pain ad scale on him, and then get your free, because your tax dollars paid for it, Lewy Bodies Dementia Handbook. And it will explain so many things about Lewy bodies. And then the website for Lewy bodies is lbda.org.
Okay.
You'll get a lot of information
do that.
because your
That
physicians, we don't have physicians trained in these things.
It's irritating that the caregivers don't want to give him medication until he can rate his pain on this 1 through 10 scale.
Yeah,
So
that's
what
the
you're
stupidity
saying,
of the doctor. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
stupidity of the doctor. We have states in the country where the doctor cannot prescribe a PRN medication for a person with dementia, because what PRN really means is that I have a 3-pound brain. I know Glenda's my nurse. I know my knee is hurting. I need to go find Glenda and tell her my knee is hurting.
Mhm.
None of the people in memory care have a 3-pound brain. So why
No,
would we give them
right.
medicine like that?
I
So
don't
it comes
understand
back
that.
to the family member has to stomp their foot. He can have narcotic pain medication. He can have 3,000 milligrams a day of ibuprofen, Tylenol, or Aleve. And your biggest pushback will be the doctor who will say, that could hurt his kidneys. He has a brain disease. Let's keep him out of pain.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Well, when he twisted this knee recently and couldn't step on it and yada yada, I got the doctor to prescribe it routinely for 3 days, and then it went back to as needed.
You
And
know, I so want to wrap barbed wire around that doctor's knee and twist it every day and ask him how he feels. You have
Yeah.
to remember, this is not their person. They are not dementia specialists. If he fails the pain ad, if even a score of 1 means I have pain, we're the
Mhm.
union. We should not have pain.
I
So
agree.
have a doctor, have a fit, throw a, what we call in my family, a running, screaming Gartman fit. Those are my grandparents. Throw a Gartman fit, have a fit. We should not have to beg for people in that age group. Because if he's in his 80s, he's actually in his 9th decade of life. Those
Yep.
bones are old and they hurt.
Yeah.
Every decade of life, you get another layer of pain. It's just
Yeah.
that you're taught to suppress it and push it down.
He
So-
just turned 86.
He should be on Celebrex for the arthritis pain, and he should be on routine daily pain medication in addition to the Celebrex.
Thank you. Thank you.
You go get them, girl.
Well,
Right.
I have been such a pest out there. I think I'm going to get evicted. I don't know.
They're not going to evict you as long as your check clears the bank every week. They're not going to do a thing.
Yeah, and it's up to
This is
$11,000 a month now.
Yeah, this is their job to take care of him. And all
Right.
you're asking them to do is take care of this person I love. And by our very own medical scales, it says he's in pain, and common sense says he's in pain. That's why you always want a board certified doctor, no matter what it is, because they were
Yeah.
at the top of their class.
What does board certified mean?
It means
Board-
they graduated at the top of their class and they took an extra test to pass the extra questions. It means they're the A students.
So it's
Everybody
okay
else
to
is
ask
in
them
the
that.
bottom half of the class.
So just say, are you board certified?
Yeah, scare the crap out of them, Maxine. Go,
Okay.
go get them. Because nothing on their license, Glenda, back me up on this, nothing on the license says I barely passed. Common
Yep.
sense tells me 50% of every medical school is in the bottom half of the class. We can't all be valedictorian.
Right. And I doubt that he is, because we are in a very small town on the Oregon coast, and
There you go.
we have little clinic, that's
Yep.
probably not going to have board
And
certified
you can-
people.
I run into physicians that I am confident have not opened a medical textbook since they left and got their
Mhm.
license. I can tell it by the medicine they write. And you're not doing anything but asking them to do their job that you're paying them to do.
Well,
That's all you're asking for is daily routine pain medicine, because who would not be hurting? And you also
So
have to remember, this isn't the doctor's loved one, and they're not the one
Yeah.
hurting.
yeah.
How
So
old is the
celebrate.
doctor?
Pardon?
How old is the doctor?
I'm guessing he's about 60.
Hmm. Hmm.
No,
Well,
I'm
Something on him hurts, and I bet you he has to take medicine when it does.
probably
Glenda, do I get
does.
to fill out my own poll? I'm so excited. I gave myself A's.
The survey
Um,
popped back up again, Kay. She mentioned that she didn't get a chance to do it. So there it is. If any of you, if you've already filled it out, don't fill it out again. Although if you have 100%, that's great. Anyway, that's there because of Kay. There was something that entered my, oh, so Tam, how much time in medical school do they use to teach physicians about dementia?
One
And elder care in
paragraph.
general.
One paragraph.
There you go. There you go. And so unless they are
One paragraph for
specialties.
physicians, it's 1 page for nurses.
There
And
you
by
go.
nurses, I mean RNs, not LPNs or LVNs. It's one page.
Right.
So there is
there's a
there is
lot
no-
of the explanation right there.
Yeah, there is no
Yeah.
training on dementia. And they assume that if you're in pain, you're going to tell me you're in pain. And they do not understand by our society, people are taught not to admit they're in pain, especially men, because pain means you're weak.
Yeah.
Okay. You look at
for
how we
sure.
treat little boys. Little boys fall down in the dirt. We tell them to get up and dust themselves off. Little girls fall down in the dirt and we say, oh, come here, come here, come here. But ladies, how many of you had cramps? Did your mother care? Did she tell you to get up and go to school anyway? And we didn't have anything. We didn't have Motrin. We didn't have anything. So humans are taught to live with pain, but in dementia, it causes behaviors because the person has no other way to express pain except through behaviors.
Yeah.
So you're a great wife, and you have my permission to take care of me when I get old.
Thank you.
Ooh, isn't that the truth? Tam's gonna take care of me when I get old. I'm already old. What are we doing? I'm old already. Okay, Tam, you gotta
Fentanyl.
step up here.
Fentanyl's my back fall. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I didn't say that. Cut that out of the recording.
Can't do it. All right, we're gonna end this now. With a smile on our face. We're
Thank you.
doing what we can do. We're doing it so well. Don't criticize yourself. Take care of yourself. My dad died before my mom. He was her caregiver. I've seen it happen in my family and in my life. So take care of yourself, please. Do the little surveys and the scales that Tam gives you. You can call Tam, by the way. I put her phone number up earlier in the chat box, and she really does welcome your calls. A lot of times she won't be there to answer because she's on the road teaching other people. Leave her a message. She'll call you back. She doesn't get back with you in a little while.
Call me again.
Call her again.
I'm just
All right.
traveling. You're not bothering me. I have a unique skill set and education. I'm happy to help you. If you start to bother me, I won't answer the phone and I'll send you a bill. There you go. How easy was that?
She will. She will. Okay, everybody. Thank you, Tam, so much. I do enjoy being with you every other month now. And I enjoy being with all of you caregivers. We learn so much from you, and I'm just in awe at the work that you're doing. So take care and join us. Let's see, we won't be with you in August. We'll be back in September.
There you
So
go.
watch for the calendar and join us then. Thank you again, everyone, and take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. God bless y'all.
Good to see your face, Maxine. You got it working.
Oh, I finally figured it out.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
Vanessa.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Odessa.
Yeah, bye, Odessa. Well,